Good afternoon, YouTube. This is Metalhead Weatherman. I hope you guys have had a good weekend so far. Not really too much to talk about in the weather scene, so this isn't going to be a super long video. But considering the fact that we have a rare snowstorm that could be approaching the southern plains here, I figured I'd quickly cover that. Beyond that, there's really not anything else I'm going to be going over tonight. For most of the week, it's going to actually be pretty quiet. I might not even put up a video tomorrow, depending on how things are, unless I see something really alarming in the models, or at least not for a forecast. I have a few other things coming up on here, so get excited, look for those. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and jump right into things here. So here we are on the NAM 3 kilometer, and as of right now, things are pretty quiet, but I want you to pay attention right around this region here, especially on this particular low that's up to the north here. All right, so that low makes its way into New Mexico, gathers some cold air in behind it, and we eventually will start to get some moderate to heavy snow. But this will also be a wet snow, so it won't be like we get like insane snowfall totals like what you would see up north. However, given the fact that this is a area that doesn't get a whole bunch of snow at this time of year, it's a little bit of a bigger thing. So we'll move this along here, and we actually get a little swath here of heavy snow, and right at our 32-degree line. And of course, there is a potential for severe storms towards the Gulf Coast tomorrow, especially towards Texas and Louisiana. It's a very marginal threat. All three hazards are possible, but a lot of factors are limiting that. But looks like in particular, Oklahoma City could get a good little swath of snow here, even through the Texas Panhandle. Maybe I wouldn't say as far south as Lubbock, but because I'm not super familiar with the areas in the Panhandle, particularly, I'm mainly more familiar with the central part of Texas. We also can't disinclude central Kansas here and getting into the snow action here. So we'll move this along, and this will work its way up to the north more. This system will gain more energy as it's being fueled by the Gulf. This will mainly turn into a rain event now for the southeast come Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon. Be relatively light in the early going, and then it'll pick up later in the day. And then as we push this further along to the north here, as we can see, we're starting to get into the Great Lakes region. We're starting to look at some widespread snow now, starting to cover Iowa, Missouri, getting into Minnesota, Wisconsin, and then eventually we look at the Ohio Valley getting snow. The NAM has this eventually going off, this low going offshore here, and then becoming an interior northeast kind of snowstorm. But there is some potential for a little wintry mix here, maybe even a little bit of ice briefly towards north of Pennsylvania. I think not Pennsylvania, but Philadelphia here. Philadelphia, I think you're going to be rain the entire time, actually. So we move this forward here. No, it looks like there's a brief window where maybe you could change over, but I don't think so. But areas like Buffalo, Rochester, you guys could definitely be seeing some snow here, maybe even some lake effect snow. But that's pretty much the end of the model run here. Let's go ahead and actually do a little comparison here and take a look at the snowfall totals. Okay, so it's been a while since I've done this little model comparison here. I don't do it often enough to really know what's going on here, so you'll get to see the setup. All right, here we are, taking a quick look at the snowfall totals over the next 2.5 days. So this is what we have for the NAM 3 kilometer. Over towards the Oklahoma Panhandle here, we have some areas where we could get 4 to 6 inches possible. Once we get towards central Oklahoma, it looks like the totals kind of drop off a bit. Like maybe towards Oklahoma City, you could get a little dusting up to about an inch possible in some regions. towards the Panhandle of Texas. Unless you're like really far north, it's not really snow town for you guys, but it is a little bit of a spectacle to see snowflakes falling in November around this region. We move this in as we move into areas like Missouri. It's a nice little swath here, maybe 3 to 5 inches possible in some spots, especially towards the northern tip of Missouri. Get into central Iowa, then we start to get into more consistent snow. Although there are a few patches here where you could get maybe an inch. A lot of areas are looking like they're gonna get maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches, maybe more. Of course, once we get into Minnesota, we're getting into that 2 to 4 inch range. Not a big snowstorm for you guys. Pretty much business as usual, even though it's a little early. Same can be said for Wisconsin. Once we get towards the Ohio Valley, the totals kind of taper off a bit before this becomes a coastal low. But several areas around here could see up to about an inch, maybe even 2 inches of snow in some spots. Towards the interior Northeast, just a little bit off of those Great Lakes here, I think we could get up to about 2 to 4, and then the last real hot spot for snow looks like it could be far northern Maine, where we could get about maybe 6, 7, maybe even 8 inches in some spots. But that's what the Euro is showing. But excuse me, not the Euro, but that's what the NAM 3 kilometer is showing us. But if we compare that to the Euro, we're looking at slightly lighter snowfall totals here. Snow looks like it's a little bit further north too with this one. It looks like, or north and west with this. Although it does look like it tries to focus slightly heavier totals towards Minnesota than it does Iowa. And then the Euro doesn't really have this forming into a big coastal low. There's still some discrepancy with that. So it's kind of tough to really gauge what we're dealing with here. So, and pretty much, of course, Maine gets essentially the same amount, maybe a couple inches, maybe an inch or two less. Look at the Canadian. The Canadian's a little bit more aggressive. It has snow a little bit further south, actually south of Oklahoma City, which is really interesting. Also has a coastal low, slightly greater snowfall totals towards the interior of Pennsylvania and parts of New York, a little bit closer to the lakes as well. So that's an interesting little discrepancy between the models here. Look at the GFS. GFS is actually not really calling for too much anything, although it does have Oklahoma City looking like the big winners here for this snow event. And then for the rest of these areas, you don't get too much until you get to Maine. But that's all the models I usually will look at here. NAM's always the traditional NAM, I don't really look at that much, but we'll go ahead and look at it. Really all over the place with the snowfall here. Not as ironclad with it. I'm not as ironclad with this as I would be the other models. But looks like there's little patches where we could get some heavy snow, and then some places don't even get snow at all, which I find kind of interesting. And then, actually, this is the first time I've ever looked at this model here. It's the RDPS. I'm trying to figure out what that is actually. Embarrassingly enough. Oh, it's another Canadian model. Oh, that's cool. And it's pretty much got similar discrepancies to the NAM. I think the swath of snow is this one's showing a swath of snow more towards the northern plains and in towards the Great Lakes. I don't really think that this has it becoming a big coastal storm or getting as strong as some of the other models are suggesting. So this is going to probably most likely be a nowcast situation over the next couple of days, trying to figure out what will happen with that low pressure as time goes on. So only thing you can really do is stay tuned. I guess I could make an update video tomorrow, kind of following up on this since there's so much discrepancy. But that being said, it's pretty much the end of the video here. If you made it to the end, if you enjoyed the video, definitely drop me a like. Let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen with this snowstorm. And of course, subscribe if you haven't already. At 105 subscribers, maybe I could try to push for 120 by the end of the year. Doesn't sound too unreasonable, does it? Or maybe even more than that. But anyways, appreciate you guys watching. It's been Tired Metalhead Weatherman. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good night.